Je ne vois pas ici, mais c'est correct. Ok, tout le monde, on va recommencer. On va avoir une pause café en 30-40 minutes avant la prochaine présentation par Susie. Okay, so I'm going to present in English. It'll be easier for me and easier for you as well, I think. So it's going to be a very fluid workshop. Basically, I've got a bunch of questions to try and find out what you guys are working on in terms of real-world data and what your projects are and what are the hurdles that you're trying to overcome as part of your projects. So France gave us a really nice presentation from the clinician point of view, although it was from the first line, so we know that there's also data from the specialists that we're not covering today. I'm going to talk or work with you guys to talk about the research world, and then Susie will give us the context, the perspective of the patient. So let's see if this works. Okay. So we'll do a quick introduction, and I mean a very quick introduction into what is real-world data. And I just took this document that was published by INES last year. So INES is Quebec's Health Technology Assessment Institute. So they assess drugs before they're approved for pain by the Quebec government. And they published this nice document last year on real-world data and the use of real-world data in the assessment of pharmaceuticals. So I'm finding it hard to read from here, but they came up with a number of definitions of what real-world data are. In fact, they went to the literature and they came up with 36 different definitions of real-world data. Now, that's a little too much, but they broke it down into 4 categories. Category number 4 is everything else. So we'll look at categories 1, 2, and 3. But basically, category 1 is any data that are collected outside of randomized controlled clinical trials. Now, France talked about randomized controlled clinical trials. These are the gold standard in healthcare for the assessment of the effectiveness of drugs and technologies. But anything that is collected for these is really tightly controlled. So patients who are in randomized controlled trials, they've got very clear protocols on how they're being treated. The diagnostic is very clear, and everything is very clearly documented. So those data are good. They're really good, but only about 5% of patients participate in those type of controlled clinical trials, and maybe even 5% is a high number. So most patients do not participate in those, and most data are produced, kind of like France was saying, produced in the real world in a very unstructured way. Individual clinicians might have structured ways of doing it, but overall they're collected in many different ways. So these data need to be cleaned up afterwards. And what is the second one there? I can't really see it from here. Maybe. But once I get to the question, it's going to be easier. Just have one slide that I need to see. Okay, so the second one, it's pretty much the same. It's about data that are collected in a more in an unstructured way. And the third one there as well. What is it? Non-experimental. So these are, again, not an intervention, not a controlled way of doing things. But I think you get the idea that real-world data are collected in a real-world, non-structured context. And these are the data that we're interested in and that I thought would be good to talk about in this meeting. And also they're collected in a retrospective way. So randomized controlled clinical trials are prospective. We know that we're going to collect these data before we even see the patient. We know that the patients that are on these trials are going to have these data collected. But patients who are not on these trials, real world data are data that we collect because we feel, or the clinicians feel, that they're needed at the time of the consultation, but it's not necessarily structured and we don't really know what we're getting in at the outset. So I'm interested to know what you guys are all working on in terms of your research projects and how they relate to real world data or not. Because this program is the Responsible Health and Healthcare Data Science, so we're all in some way involved with health data. So what type of health data are we working with, and how are you getting your data, etc. So I put together a number of questions that you can access with Slido. So if you can take a photograph of this QR code and go to the Slido website, you'll be able to answer the questions that I have here. Some of these questions will give answers right away on the screen, so we'll all see them right away. And some of them I would like you to work together on your tables and discuss them, and then put the answers in and we look at them together. So we'll try to make this as interactive an activity as possible. So did everybody get onto the site? Yes? Okay. So we'll go for the first question. Simple question, what is your role? So are you a PhD student, a master's student, an undergraduate student, a clinician, a patient partner, or something that's not on the list? So we've got a lot of PhD students here and a lot of MSc students. We don't have many clinicians, and I'm not answering for myself. Where's our patient partner? Yeah, well, I'll put you up there as an option. So, yeah, I'm waiting. Can you get the QR code? Because now it's a bit further away. You get it? I'll go back to the previous slide. Try the bigger one. Hopefully you don't have to answer it again. Okay. Well, we know we have one patient partner, so we can move on to the next slide, and you can get connected as we're going along. Okay, so I think it doesn't give us the numbers of each, but good. We got a good mix of experience here for students. We don't have any undergraduates, do we? No, everybody's too busy doing studies for final exams. What field of research are you engaged in? And this is going to be a word cloud, so put in whatever you're working on, and we should start to see things come up here. Medical physics. Oh, lots of medical physics. What was the second one there? AI medicine. Should be able to continue on. And I'm going to take that microphone. Okay, confidentiality, epidemiology, statistics, causality, bioinformatics, omics, microbiology, operations research, synthetic medical data, knowledge graphs, computer sciences, biostatistics, community health, big data, drug discovery, radiomics. Okay, I'm going to start repeating things here. But it looks like we've got a lot of medical physics students, which I guess we have at least 2 medical physics professors here that have students. But feel free to add in what area of research in medical physics you're working on. It'll only add up if the word is the same, yeah. AI is there. So I think there's a lot of people doing AI medicine, AI, bioinformatics. Okay, excellent. We got 26 answers. Yeah, we'll go to the next slide. So is your research quantitative clinical research, qualitative clinical research, mixed methods, so both quantitative and qualitative, or fundamental basic science research, or a combination of all of the above? Okay, well, I'm surprised there's more fundamental basic science than I was expecting. Well, we got some mixed methods here. Not much in qualitative. So a combination of all of the above. We got some. Okay, I'm actually surprised that there's so much basic science research here in this group. I had expected more using data, that it would be fundamental. Very interesting. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Is your research carried out under an REB, so a Research Ethics Board approved protocol? Yes, no, or I don't know. Hopefully there's nobody that doesn't know. There's a fly chasing me here. Yes. Okay, no. So, well, I'm not too surprised because I'm guessing that we have a lot of people that are doing fundamental basic science that probably they don't need REB approval for their research. Okay, and I don't know is it looks like at least one person. Oh, must be two people because now I went down to 3%. Okay, good. So most people do have an REB approved protocol for their research projects. Interesting. Now the question is, do you use patient data in your research? So yes or no? Yes, so most people do, which is interesting given that most people were doing the fundamental basic science. What's that? Yes, with no REB. Little concerning. But I think we had both qualitative and quantitative being balanced out by the fundamentals. So I would imagine that qualitative also had REB. If you are using patient data in your research, how, where, or are the patient data collected? Are they collected retrospectively, in which case it would be real-world data, or prospectively? So who is collecting their data? Prospectively, I'm accessing data that are collected specifically for my research study with patient consent. Okay, so most people are using data that are have been collected most likely in a real-world context, and they're using accessing those retrospectively. Okay. Where or are the data for your study collected? So were they collected at your institution or your clinic, or at another institution or clinic, or are they publicly available, or a combination of your institution, another institution, or publicly available? So I'm interested to know where you're getting your data from. So are these data that you have easy access to, maybe not easy, but that you have access to directly at your institution, or do you need to go elsewhere, or are you using publicly available data? Okay, so it looks like most people are getting their data at their own institution, and but it's been balanced out now by people that are getting data at their own institution and at another institution or outside of their institution. So could be publicly available or could be at another institution. Okay. In your data set, do you have access to any patient identifiers? So can you identify who those patients are that are in your data? Yes, no, I don't know. Okay, so at least everybody knows. Oh, well, I spoke too soon. Give me the microphone.
No, it's a question, sorry, to you, so I understand better. If we keep our data separately, we have identifier for a trial, but we're obliged to remove them, and it's just...
I can clarify. So what I had in mind was, you as a person who are using the data for research, can you tell who the patients are of the data that you have? So just at the time that you're using the data for your research, can you tell who the patients are, or have the identifiers already been removed? Or are you the person who's removing the identifiers? If you're the person removing the identifiers, then you obviously know who the patients are because you're doing the work of removing the identifiers. So most people do not have the ability to determine who the patients are that are involved in the research. the data that they're using for their research. Okay, interesting. But there is at least 3 people who don't know, which is a bit surprising. Okay. If you answered yes to accessing patient identifiers, so at some point during your research you have access to patient identifiers, do you need them in your research? So the answers are yes, I need them. No, they are just there. I have access, but only when extracting the data. Once extracted, they are de-identified /coded. Okay, so most people, I'm surprised that there's 10% of people that have access to those patient identifiers while they're doing their research, but they don't actually need them. Okay, I guess it depends on how many are answering. I don't see the numbers, I'm just seeing percentages, so, okay. Okay, so I guess some of those people that are doing fundamental basic science are not answering here. Okay, interesting. Okay, what are the sources of data for your research? So this is something to write in by hand. I'm thinking here the cancer registry, the data warehouse, the hospital electronic medical record, or the electronic medical record of a GMF, or a clinic, or a questionnaire that's provided to patients, or something else. So it could be a combination of multiple things. So this is another word cloud, so just put in whatever is appropriate for what you're doing. So people are working with the data warehouse. Some people are working with the electronic medical record of the hospital. We have patient questionnaires, public data set. What is a GE gateway? I'm not sure what that is. Yeah?
C'est un gateway, c'est une passerelle qui va collecter les données des patients au chevet avec tous les signes vitaux des patients. Qui nous envoie. Voilà.
Thanks. Okay, but it looks like the EMR and the public data set are the biggest sources of data. The PACS, so for images, patient questionnaires, NCBI, I guess that's publicly available data, is that right? Yep. DPE, what's the DPE? Okay, so it's the same as the EMR? Okay, so the EMR would be the same thing? Okay. Okay. And the ESQ, the ISQ, what is that? Okay, so that would be publicly available data, I guess. Okay, interesting. So I've got another question about requesting access in a minute. Okay, what else did we have? BigQuery, DSQ. So maybe somebody's putting it down as the source of the data, and maybe there's a way of accessing. That's interesting that it is. Okay, big public database survey. Anything I missed here? SQ PACS has gone up. Mass spectrometer. Okay. All right. Okay. How do you obtain your data? So I access them myself from the data source. So that person who's going to the DSQ. I submit a request to the data custodian. That's what I was referring to a minute ago, who then sends me the data, or I don't know. Somehow they just magically appear. Sorry?
If you produce them.
Okay. First answer will be the one. Because you're going to the data source, the patient is the data source there. Okay, so most people are going to the data, to the source of the data and getting the data from the source, which is interesting. But some people, it looks like, how many have answered? 26, so maybe 4 or 5 people are going to the custodian of the data and submitting a request, and then I guess waiting to get the response back with the data. Okay, does your research involve artificial intelligence? This is a simple question, yes, no, or I guess there's also an I don't know. Okay, so interesting. We'll give everyone a minute. It looks like I think everyone has answered that most people are doing AI with their research. It would have been interesting to ask this question 10 years ago and see what response we would have gotten. So interesting statistics for maybe we can submit these with the to insert with the report. Yeah, you have all the data. Yeah. Does your research involve building infrastructure to manage data? Yes, as a primary objective. So your main objective is to build infrastructure for managing data. No, or I just use existing data. What was the last one? Yes, as a secondary but necessary objective. So in other words, your main objective of your research is not to build research data, but research data infrastructure, but it doesn't exist. So as a necessity, you have to build it. So, okay, so most people are using infrastructure that already exists, which is interesting. But I know that some people are building infrastructure because it doesn't already exist and they need to build it in order to access the data. So, but some people are building research as a primary objective, or building research data infrastructure. Okay, now the big question. Do you have access to all the data you need for your project? Yes, I have access to all the data I need. No, I do not have access to all the data I need, or I'm not sure. Okay. So there's more people that are able to access all the data that they need than I was expecting. I was expecting that most people do not have access to all the data they need. Some people are not sure, which is not too surprising because we don't always know at the outset what data we're going to need. Okay. Okay, so this is a loaded question here. What is the biggest difficulty you have in accessing the data you need for your research? And I would like you guys to discuss this in your tables rather than just putting up answers here. Discuss it in your table and then put your answers in, and then I will display all the answers all at once. So I'd like to give you 5 minutes to just chat around each table and see from talking to each other if you come up with difficulties that you might not have thought about by yourself. And let's try to get some information coming in from each of the tables. Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes to discuss. Si ça marche, ça marche.
Yes, I didn't ask you after.
Can you consider turtle? No, I do use it. The main challenge is actually making sure that you don't have personal information more than it is. Accessing the data is not that. Cleaning up. It's really cleaning up. Cover up ground.
I have invested showing the process. So the retrospective data you need one. But the patient must find out how to use the data for research. Then how can you use it for research?
That's the art of the problem. It's very
chance to discuss? Yeah. You guys discuss? Yeah. Yeah. Got some. Okay. Okay, then we will see what the answers are. If you haven't put in your answers, please put them in now, and we will see what we got in terms of difficulties that people have been encountering. Okay, manual data retrieval, format of the data, distributed data, quantity of the data, small cohort for AI. Okay, so the biggest challenge, someone's saying the biggest challenge is getting all the data that they need. What else do we have? Time. So that's the time it takes to get the data. So I guess that's the people who have to submit those requests and wait for the data to come back. Is that right? Yeah. What else do we have? Questionnaire completion. So I guess not all patients are answering the questionnaires they've been given. This would be where did that answer go? This would be too many data to ask for. Okay, so someone is not being satisfied with all the data that they need. Systems do not speak to each other, so interoperability is certainly a big problem. Administration, a lot of overhead, so you have to apply for the Research Ethics Board approval. You have to get approval from the Director of Professional Services for retrospective data. The format of the data, so I'm guessing here that the format is all over the place and you have to reformat it and try to take care of it. Unclean data, so you have to spend time. It's not necessarily a challenge in accessing the data, but it's a challenge in using the data once you have access. And the bureaucracy, what else do we, the wait time, the sample size, culture, diversion, or risk. Yes, so it makes it a challenge to get access to data because people are too worried about data being able to leak out. Okay, good. Any comments on this from anyone? So did you find when you were talking to each other that you were encountering similar problems, or there was a diversity of problems at your tables? Similar? Diverse? So we got a range of things here, so I think there's a diversity of problems. But I certainly see the format of the data, the bureaucracy, the availability of the data. These are common problems. Now, can you suggest possible solutions to the challenge of accessing data? What has worked for you? Do you have any tips to share with other people? And I'd like you to take another 2 minutes at your table and think about the solutions that you have come up with to access the data, or the solutions that you would like to see put in place to help you to access data. So let's take 2 minutes and put in your answers again. And let's try to get the answers in before we display them next time so that they don't change as we're displaying them. Okay, we'll give everyone one more minute. Okay, so let's reveal the possible solutions to the challenge of accessing data. So what do we have? Ooh, data lake. Everyone would like to, or a lot of people would like to have a data lake. La loi 5. What else do we have? Oh, loi 5, please. Shared data bank. I think that goes with choose a supervisor who's good at accessing data. Where did that go? I saw that there for a second and then disappeared. Good collaboration with clinical sites, yeah, for sure. Interoperability of databases and systems, standard that is followed by users. Good luck. That's a tough one. Quicker, not quite sure how we get there. What's the solution to be quicker? Standards, masters, I'm not sure what that is. Data, shared data bank, simulations. Okay, so over at this table here doing fundamental science, they make their own data. It's a good, easy solution. Vive dans le déni. Okay, yeah, I think a lot of us do that. Choose a supervisor who's good in accessing data. All right, automation. All right, good suggestions, and I hope this provides food for discussion over the course of the next 2 days. So, when you have access to the data you need, are they good data? I hear a lot of no's out there. No. 100% no. Except for those who are doing the simulations, presumably. Yes, the data. So, no, I need to spend a lot of time cleaning the data, or yes, the data are ready for analysis. So, I'm curious for those people who go to the data custodian and you get data back from, who do you go to? Is it the RAMQ, or who provides you with the data? Yeah. Okay, so are the data ready to use when you get them, or you have to do a lot of work cleaning them?
We actually don't have access to the special data yet for this project, But last time I did a project with ESQ, well, it was a different context. We didn't even have to apply. It was a bit different. But the data is a survey data, and it's been produced to be shared with researcher. So it's not. I don't know if it counts as real data with your core definition, right? Because it's collected with all this principle fashion and with interviewers, and also the data was not that bad actually. Plus, what our goal is not to answer a medical question, but to produce data, so it's a bit different.
I think all data are data, so real world data. So it's less real world then, is that it? So okay, so it's prospective then. It sounds like it's prospectively collected. Okay. Okay. It's just informational. So, but the data are collected for the purpose of research because it is a study that they're collected for. Yeah, but I think then we would say it is prospectively collected data because it is data that have been collected for the purpose of using them to describe something in terms of research. So, but given the context, I'm not too surprised that the data are relatively good compared to those data that are collected in the clinical or real world context and are less good and require a lot of cleaning. So, not too many surprises here that a lot of people have work to do to make their data ready for analysis. Okay. Do you need experts, clinicians, or other researchers to annotate and validate your data? Or are your data good to go for your research right away? So yes, I need experts to annotate my data, or no, I do not need experts to annotate my data. Okay. So it looks like most people don't need the experts. They're ready to go with their data themselves, but some people do need, or a lot of people need experts to annotate their data, whether this is clinicians that need to go through the data and label them because the information that you need is not clearly available in the data already. So this is another step in the cleaning process, but it's a cleaning process that you can't do yourself. You need to involve other experts. Okay, and what is the biggest challenge to getting the experts to annotate your data? So you need these experts to help. Are they available? If not, what's the challenge? So their time. Yes, experts are expensive in terms of, their time costs a lot and they don't have much of it available. Okay, I was afraid it was just going to be time, but we've got also availability. Okay, same sort of thing, and money. So if you're paying experts to help. Too busy, so they have lots of other things to do. It can be difficult to get their time. Okay, not too many surprises there. We still have some people typing. Put in your responses. Psychometricians are very rare. Yes, so these are people who would help with coming up with questionnaires and things like that, I think. Did I get that right? Yeah. People who are experts in psychometrics.
Valid measure, to devise a measure like a scale for pain or a scale for quality of life or a scale, you need psychometrician, and we feel that they're even rarer than data analysts. Not that data analysts are very numerous, but helping us with the psychometrics.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong and maybe I can learn from you, but when you do data analysis, do you make, you already take for granted that the psychometrics of the scale that is in the database is okay, or do you revisit the psychometrics of the scales?
I think we in a lot of cases, we use questionnaires that have already been validated and that are standardized. So somebody has already done the work for us. I'm not sure there's many people here that actually create the questionnaires in the first place. So it's a very valid point. These are difficult things to get. Radiologist, infrastructure usability, harmonization, verification, reports, manual. So I guess that's manual annotation for the people that are involved. Okay, next question. Are your data reliable? So now you've gotten all your data, you're doing your analysis. Can you trust your results because of your analysis? Can you trust all of the data, or there's big uncertainties? Okay, a scale from, definitely not. Okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying. So this is where I could have done with a psychometrician helping me to put together the questionnaire. Yeah. Well, at least most people feel that they have full confidence in the reliability of their data, which is good, I guess. But 35% don't. So that's also a concern. But this is not too unusual with real-world data that we're not sure how they were collected because they're collected in the real world. If you mention that your data are not reliable, please explain why not. Why can't you trust your data? So curious for those people who said that they couldn't trust that the data were not reliable, why not? So maybe this helps France with your scale. It gives us a bit of an understanding. So let's see. People are writing big paragraphs here. Inter-expert variability. Nice. Yeah, that's a good one. So inter-expert variability, inter-observer variability. So who is right? There may be different ways of giving the right answer. You give it to 2 or 3 different people, you might get 2 or 3 different answers. Did the respondent take great care in responding? So that's another thing. And we know from some questionnaires that if you make every question on an electronic questionnaire compulsory, patients might not want to answer certain questions and they might choose an answer just to get onto the next question, which is something they could leave on paper, they could just leave it blank. So inter-expert variability is a big one. Measure instruments not standard yet, so that's a good one. Specific to my institution. So the data are good for your institution, but they cannot be generalized to another institution. Unclear free text, that's a common one. So the text, we don't know what the person who meant, what they meant when they were writing it. And in some cases, we've seen spelling mistakes as well. Was the measure itself valid? Multiple diagnoses, human errors in it, exceptions to labeling logic. So yeah, free text data are always difficult to be reliable with. Okay, specific to my institution, that one has jumped up a lot. So yeah, a lot of data, you do analysis on them and you realize that they cannot be applied to elsewhere. And this is a big problem with doing AI, that your results in your model is not going to apply elsewhere. But it's also important to be doing your analysis on real world data in the first place so that you're working with the real context. Okay, how could your data and real world data in general be made more reliable? And please take a few minutes, discuss in your group how to make data more reliable, and we'll get back and finish off the session. So 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll have a look at your suggestions on how to make data more reliable. Standardization. Okay. But I think the one at the top is more important, easy to use standards, because we saw in France's presentation, we can have those ICD codes, we can have those standards, but if they're not easy to use, nobody's going to use them. No more papers, digitize everything. Well, yes, but if we're just creating Word documents, I mean, I guess we can use natural language processing on them, but still not easy to access. Yes. Yes, we do scan in a lot of paper as well. Have more data. I'm not sure if that makes them more reliable. Less free text fields, yes. Pertinence. So, are the data what we need? Consequences. I'm not sure what is meant by consequences. Yeah. Right. But maybe we can turn it around and we can say maybe there should be incentives for doing things in a more standard way. So, you know, if clinicians can have a easier time working with standard data than they would have otherwise, they will opt for the easier solution, right? Mm-hmm. So, very interesting. Susie's going to be giving her presentation in a few minutes about data transparency, and giving patients their data will help improve the data. Yeah. Yeah, and then makes the data better for everyone, right? I like that. I don't need a microphone when you speak. I don't need to run over there. Set a data quality improvement standards. So set the standards, but again, they need to be enforced. So having standards is one thing, but enforcing those standards is another. Averages between many experts. So I guess this goes back to the inter-observer variability. Patient opinion on this. Okay, reward. So that's the incentive. Okay, good. What do we have here? Do you have sufficient storage space to manage all of your data? I think this is one of the last questions. So, yes, I have sufficient storage space. No, I do not have sufficient storage space. So, who said they did not have sufficient storage space? I'm curious what type of analysis you're doing. So, I'm looking at Felix. I know he doesn't have enough space, but he's doing simulations. He's making his own data. So you need tons of data, but also genomic data, right? Genomic data takes up a lot of space. Is there anybody else who said they didn't have enough space? What type of research are you doing? I'm curious. Oh, we only had 5 people answer. Just you. You answered a few times. Okay. Please share your thoughts about data storage for healthcare data. So I think we can go quickly through this. Do you have any thoughts on data storage? Is there enough data storage? Is data storage something you worry about, or you don't have to worry about it? Is this an issue even for you? Yeah. It's a very general question, I realize. I'm just going to skip forward to see what my next questions were. Okay, where are your data stored?
Yes, it is an issue. Because we wonder sometimes where the data are stored. And my understanding with the DMA, they are not stored within the public institution. They are stored at the company warehouse. So, yeah, we have a concern.
Thank you. So the storage, I think you're okay with, but where the storage is, you don't know where it is necessarily, especially today with our cloud-based solutions. Well, I have a question on that in a second. Concerns about how it is used. The data, so the confidentiality of the data has to be sufficient and secured. Scared of data security, interoperability, should be with those who understand how to secure the data. So concerns around data storage are not concerns about having enough of it, but concerns about how it's been done and where it's been done. Future-proofing ways to store it. That's a very difficult one because so many data formats change over time. How to find it, so fair, making the data accessible, and benefits greatly from specialists and proper architecture. Yes, so I think people who understand data are the best for putting them together. Okay. Where are your data stored? So are your data stored securely within a healthcare institution, securely in the cloud? And I guess that's a tough one to answer because you might not be sure that they're secure. But your data, so the data that you have control over yourself, on my computer, on my lab's computer, or I don't know where. USB, floppy disk. Okay, so securely within a healthcare institution, on my computer, securely in the cloud. I don't know where. On my lab's computer, nobody's answering that. Okay, so most data, and that I think is pretty typical of Quebec, most data are stored within a healthcare institution. Some data are on the cloud, some are on people's computers. Okay. And do you have sufficient computing power for your data analysis? So just a question about computing power. And yes, no, I do not have sufficient computing power. Interesting. So there's some people doing some high-powered computing here. So I guess this goes with the AI. So AI can take up a lot of computing power. It can be hard to come by. But most people have sufficient. Okay. Any thoughts about computing power for health data analysis? So do you find in the healthcare institutions there's enough computing power, or you have to take the data outside of the healthcare institution, or we have enough access? So we know that Calcul Quebec or Compute Canada, those are outside of our healthcare institutions, so it's very difficult to take healthcare data out there. So any thoughts coming up here? Computing power. Would need to take the data outside of the healthcare system. Yes, so to get real computing power, it's very difficult to get it in the healthcare institution or the healthcare system, which is a bit of a problem if you're doing, if you want to do data analysis on big data, real world big data. And also, if you want to do real world big data, you need data not just from your institution, but from other institutions. So you need to combine those data somehow. And this, I guess, is where federated learning comes in. Okay, lacking power on the inside, so consistent with the first one. Not enough funding for computational infrastructure compared to physical and mechanical infrastructure. Interesting. So maybe our healthcare system needs to look into this and treat data as an important part of our infrastructure. Okay, got one other person typing here. Okay, we always want more, but in general we have enough. Okay. So we're always complaining. That is true. We're always complaining, but somehow we always survive. Oh, what was the last one? Oh, I think we got them all. So, last question. What have you learned from this exercise? Is there anything that surprised you from this discussion? Or you're familiar with all of this already? And this is the last one. A whole lot. Yeah, that's for sure. We're all suffering together. We all have problems. Yes, nobody has it perfect. I think that is certainly true. Same problems, different shapes. I am not alone. Yay. Government and institutions need to recognize the need for good data. I think that is certainly true. I think it's nice that, I was very curious what everybody was working on and what everybody's feelings were about the data and the availability of data, etc. So it's actually been, for me, it has been a very interesting exercise to see what everybody is doing on. We focus a lot on data. But I think we're all, at least in this group, we're all doing projects that are related to data in one way or another. And we need Loi 5. When is Loi 5 coming in? Next year? Actual implementation. Spring of next year? Okay. Right, and then practice. Surprised that we don't have a solution for this yet. I guess it's 2023. We've been talking about big data for multiple years now, and we're still struggling. And we've got the Quebec healthcare system, which has still a lot of paper in it, but we're moving there. We all want the same thing, but somehow we can't get it. Changing the healthcare system is a slow process, even if it happens at all. Okay, I think it is happening, but it's definitely slow. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. This was, for me at least, a very interesting exercise. And we're going to take a 15-minute coffee break. And then Susie's going to give us a presentation from the patient perspective. Thank you.